Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome to episode number 4 of the Odyssey. I know it's been a little while. Took a slight hiatus. Had a pretty long deload because my fatigue got extremely high, so I wasn't filming anything during that time. And then also just with the holidays and everything like that, just been kind of wrapped up in that stuff. Work also, my day job. We had some events that I was taking care of. So it was just a really busy time, and I just didn't have as much time to dedicate to the YouTube stuff. So all that stuff is past. Not the holidays. We still got some of those left. But as far as work and all that stuff has cleared up. So now I do have some more free time, and I'll be back to posting these regularly on a weekly basis. So, episode number 4. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So, this is my back workout. This is my pull B session. So within this session, I don't have any arm work. On my first pull session, my pull A variation, I do have arm work. So this is me coming off of a deload. So everything that I'm going to be doing here is I'm only doing 2 sets. Normally I have 3 sets of all these movements, but being that I'm coming off a deload, and you lose a little bit of adaptation within there, I'm not trying to then re-dig the fatigue hole that I just climbed out of by doing the equal amount of volume, right? Because I just recovered. If I go in there, because that's the hard thing about coming off of a deload, you will feel incredibly good and you will want to push extremely hard again in the gym. But that's kind of where you need to hold back just a little bit, at least for probably your first 3 to 4 sessions back. That way you can get that adaptation back to the volume, to the weight, to the intensity. So starting off is this unilateral pull down here. So one of the key things here, I think, is I see people using way too much weight all the time. I also see these excessive lateral flexions, right? Like if I'm sitting straight up to work my lat, I don't have to be like this. You don't have to do that to work your lat, okay? Yeah. Not only that, but I'll see people it exaggerates as they are pulling down. So they're starting from a neutral position, and as they're pulling down, they just get more and more like that. And they're not actually driving their elbow into their hip joint, into the thigh. What they're doing is they're just laterally flexing, moving the weight with their arm essentially, and moving the weight by essentially flexing your obliques almost, and crunching into your side. You're not using your lat to drive it. So one of the things I really want to point out here is use less weight than you think you should. Whatever weight you're picking, lower it, cut it in half, and really concentrate on only driving with your elbow. I've said this multiple times, to use your hand as hooks and stuff like that. And I really can't stress that enough, because so many people, I see their biceps take over, I see their forearms take over, I see their upper back take over, because they are so overly concerned about the load that they're moving versus how they are moving the load. So man, it's just so key in back training. And I think it's really why so many people have very lackluster backs, is just because there's way too much ego within their back training. Now, there are some movements where I think you really should just be concentrating on moving load, not so much on this feeling, or really concentrating on having this immaculate execution, right? T-bar row is kind of one of those where I think having a looser form is acceptable, But you'll get a lot of guys who just do like the head pecking thing, right? Where it's like they're going like this, and it's just their head moving. It's not actually them driving their elbows all the way back. So again, I do think that T-bars should be one of those exercises that you do try and overload, but again, it does become bastardized, and people just use way too much weight on the T-bar row. So again, maybe use a little bit less than you think, and just work your way up, right? It's okay to start light, and over the weeks, just work yourself up while you're keeping your form in check by, videoing yourself, right? So it's 2 sets of the unilateral row, or unilateral pull down, 2 sets of the T-bar row. Then I came over here to this Nautilus unilateral row. This one's really, really good. Within this, again, it's pretty much the same principle. Anytime you're trying to work your lat, I am driving my elbow into my hip, trying to keep it as close to my side as possible. So I try to give you guys a couple different angles so you can kind of see what I mean by that. And also, within these, your upper back is going to move, right? Like, it's impossible not to have that moving while you're trying to do these movements, but the idea is to keep that minimal so that you can ensure you are using your lat. And again, this is where I see people really get carried away with thinking they're working their lat because they're doing like a lat movement, or they might even be driving their elbow into their hip, but they're driving their elbow into their hip using their entire upper back to do it. That is not working your lat, okay? Again, use less weight than you probably think that you are capable of handling. It was another 2 sets there on that unilateral row. Then went over here to this unilateral cable pullover, essentially. So this is a movement I'm on the fence about, as far as, is this really a great driver of hypertrophy? Is this really something that is useful within back training? It's something I've never done before. Luke has it within my programming, so I am giving it a try. And again, I'm still on the fence about it, because when you think about the load that your lat is truly capable of moving, and you can see how much I'm using on the stack there. I'm using like 15 or 20 pounds. Like, is that really causing enough muscular damage to like stimulate hypertrophy when I was just on that Nautilus unilateral row moving 3 plates, right? Which is 135 pounds. Like, it just, I'm going with it and seeing if I see any tangible results, but it is definitely a movement I'm on the fence about. And it is definitely a movement that as a beginner, you should absolutely not be doing. If you are a beginner and you have this in your program, get this shit out. Do your basic movements. Do pulley rows, do T-bar rows, do lat pull downs. Like, you do not need something like this. And I see way too many people trying to do these type of movements because they can feel it, so they think that it's working, essentially, which, me saying that is a bit hypocritical to what I was just talking about, where you need to lower your loads on other movements so that you can feel it better. But with that movement, I'm still just on the fence because of how low the load is. Like, your ability to load that over time is just like, the runway is like this long, whereas like on a pull down or a row is like, this big here, right? So it's 2 sets there, and then I went over to this rear delt pull, essentially, and it was 2 sets here as well. Now, this is actually one of my favorite ways, if not my favorite way to work rear delts. Now I know a lot of people like these face pulls, or getting on a cable machine and doing like a unilateral row like that, which is fine. The rear delts is a very small muscle, but man, I really feel like if you can get on a machine like this where you have great stability, you can just drive so much more stimulus to your rear delts in that way. Not only that, you're also hitting your upper back. Like I'm also hitting my upper back, my traps, rhomboids, all that stuff. Like I'm still hitting in that movement. I really don't think that rear delts need like pure isolation. Like unless your rear delts just absolutely like suck, or like there's some specific feedback from the judges that's like, man, everything about your physique is great, it's just your rear delts, they suck, then yes, maybe you can consider these isolation movements. But for the most part, man, if you have a big upper back and you're really good at rowing for your top line, you're gonna have good rear delts regardless. Again, 2 sets there. Then I moved over to calves, which is finishing out the workout. So this is one of the ways I train my calves. I train my calves 2 different ways. This is the first way that I do it. In another video, I'll probably cover the second way. But for here, don't mind the angle. The angle makes my calves look very small. My calves are still pretty small, but they're not as small as they look here. So the first thing I do is a couple warm-up sets, get some blood in there. Then I'm going to pick a moderate weight that I can do 15 to 20 reps with. And these are slow, controlled, full range of motion. Full stretch at the bottom, full contraction all the way at the top, controlled throughout the entire movement, 15 to 20 reps. Once I hit that like failure point, I'm then going to sit in the stretched position for 15 seconds and just like continue to let that blood pool in there, and also let that muscle really stretch under load, because we know that stretching under load is where a massive amount of hypertrophy occurs. This is also a spot where your calves literally never get to unless you're doing something like this. Your calves will never be in that position. So having them enter that position, especially when they're like pumped full of blood, I truly believe is one of the ways that is incredibly effective to grow your calves, especially if you think you have like stubborn calves and whatnot. Then after you come out of that pause, I go into partial reps. So again, same principle applies there with like having being stretched under load while being full of blood. And so these partial reps, man, they really hurt. So I do partial reps till failure out of the bottom, and then I rest again for 15 seconds in that stretched position. Then I do another set, or like mini set, whatever you want to call it, of partials till failure once again. Then I'm going to sit in the paused position, or the stretched position, sorry, for another 15 seconds. And then I'm going to end the set by going into full reps again. So as many as I can get. You're not going to get many. And then straight from the full reps into partials. And then once I hit failure on partials, I'm going to go back into that loaded stretch and sit there for 15 seconds. And then that right there is going to end the set. So this set is going to be extremely brutal. It's going to hurt really bad. And it's probably going to last like 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes. Like it's going to really hurt. And when you get off, like you're probably going to have a tough time walking. So I do 2 sets of that. It's extremely effective in my opinion. And it's short and sweet, right? Like you're not having to do 30 sets for calves. You're literally just doing 2 big sets. It takes 10 minutes and then you are done. So if you guys have stubborn calves, if you want to grow your calves, If you just need to work your calves in general, I would really suggest giving this a try. Only if you're not experienced with working calves, like if you don't work calves, only do one set, okay? One set of this will wreck you for probably 4, 5, 6 days, maybe even more, depending on if you've ever trained calves or not. So start slow and then build your tolerance up. So do that one set, then whenever they're not sore again, do that again, and it's likely that they won't be sore as long. And then you just work your way up, right, to where it's maybe you can do one set of that every 2 days, and then you start working yourself up to 2 sets, and then just keep following that pattern, right? I limit it to like 2 or 3 sets because of the frequency. I'm doing calves every day or every other day, so there's no reason for me to do like 70 sets in one day, because what I'm doing is spreading that frequency out throughout the week. So hopefully you guys found this video informational. Hopefully you were able to pick up some tips. If you give that calf workout a try, let me know. Comment below if you tried it. Message me on Instagram, whatnot, and let me know how it goes. Let me know if your calves felt destroyed or not, or if it was just me. Anyways, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here, and I will catch you guys in episode number 5. Peace.